I had already seen 3 of the victims online before I ever spoke to the man and his daughter. The first was a young mother from one end of the high desert. Her photo on the news looked like it had been taken on some family camping trip, the sun tangled in her hair. The second was a truck driver from another stretch entirely, who used to stop by for coffee when he passed through town. I did not know him well, but I remembered his voice, raspy. Like every word scraped its way out. The third was a retired mechanic from the opposite edge of the desert. A quiet man I had served pies to a handful of times. The articles were short, bare facts and vague warnings. But my dreams filled in the rest. Not the way you would expect. No monsters, no faceless killers, just strange, quiet details. In one, I was standing in a patch of desert at night, the wind tossing sand into my eyes. The young mother lay in the dirt, one shoe missing, her hair stiff with dried blood. I reached down and felt something hard in her hand. A flower. In the morning, when I read her obituary, I told myself my brain had just made that up. Another night, I dreamed of the truck driver's rig sitting abandoned on a frontage road. I opened the cab door and he was there. Eyes open but not seeing. His hands resting on the wheel. Between his fingers was the same kind of flower. Pale, dry, curling inward. I shook myself awake, sure it was just because I had read too much about him. For the mechanic, I dreamed of a dark workshop, tools hanging on the walls. He was slumped in a chair, head tilted to the side, one arm hanging loose. In his palm again, a desert rose. I told myself it was just my mind recycling the same image. Still, the dreams made me worry for my customers. Folks were scared. Nobody wanted to throw birthday parties or retirements or even graduations anymore. If people were not celebrating, they were not ordering cakes. So I dropped my prices, lowest in town. Not because I needed the money. My aunt left me enough to keep the place alive, but it felt like something I could do. Maybe if people had a reason to smile, it would keep the fear from settling in too deep. The cops came in sometimes. I gave them free pastries, told them it was just good community service. Really, I wanted to hear whatever scraps of information they would let slip. One afternoon, while they were nursing their coffee, I asked if they were getting any closer to finding him. One of them said something about those flowers, and then shut his mouth like he had just stepped off a cliff. I leaned in, asked what flowers. "Desert roses," he muttered, eyes fixed on his cup. "Every one of them is found with one in their hand. Every one of them is found with one in their hand." The weird part was, I knew that already. It was not in any article. I had only seen it in dreams. It wasn't in any article. I had only seen it in dreams. I told myself it was a lucky guess, that maybe I had read it somewhere and forgotten. But the thought wouldn't leave me alone. The nights after that were worse. I would wake in the dark and swear I smelled dust in my sheets, a dry, bitter scent that did not belong inside. Once I found a few grains of sand on my bedroom floor, clinging to my socks when I got up for water. I told myself it was from tracking it during the day, but I couldn't remember walking through any that week. A week later, the man and his daughter came in. She looked about 16, keeping her gaze low like she was somewhere else entirely. He was looking for a cake with a specific kind of frosting I did not have. I told him I couldn't do it in time for the date he wanted. The girl flinched, like she thought I might yell. Something in me twisted. I smiled and told him I could make it happen after all. That night, my sleep came heavy and deep. No tossing, no teeth in the dark, just a single, vivid dream. I saw him walking alone on the edge of a dirt service road. Service road. The sky the color of cooling ash. The wind smelled like rain on dust. Someone was behind him, close enough that I could hear their breathing. He turned his head and there was a dull, wet sound. His knees buckled. He fell forward into the dirt, his cheek pressing against the ground. His hand twitched once, twice, and then went still. Between his fingers, a brittle desert rose caught in the moonlight. When I woke, I felt good, rested, clear-headed. I lay in bed scrolling through my feed until I saw the headline. Latest victim identified. It was the father. Same photo I remembered from the shop, his arm around the daughter. I stared at the screen until my thumb went numb, and for some reason, I suddenly remembered something from that day in the bakery. Something I had pushed aside. Before I had stepped away to check the frosting, he had muttered at her. Low, but sharp enough to cut. "You are wasting my money. Could have just bought a boxed cake mix and had your mother make it." Her eyes had stayed fixed on the floor. I do not know why that memory came back then, but it settled into my chest like a stone. I pulled out my order book, found his number, and called. No answer. Just his voicemail greeting. I told him the cake was ready for pickup. When I hung up, I opened the industrial fridge to start on the morning prep. The top shelf caught my eye. 2 of my aunt's dried desert roses sat in their glass jar. Petals curled like little fists. Only 2. I stared at the empty space where the others had been and asked the room, where did the rest go? Thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. A quick shout out to my patrons, Old Penguin, Rinku Star, Melissa Perez, Icy Narrates, Seven Cities Journalist, Cupcake Hips, Eric Cifuentes, Alonso, Austin My Love, Ellie Hutmeyer, Jesse Hartley, Lawrence Wallen, Mr. Sankofa, and William Hartley. I always try to link a different charity in the description, so go ahead and check that out. I'm also going to start having more things on my Patreon soon, so keep your eyes peeled. And as always, I'd love to know how I can be praying for you, so go ahead and drop a comment and let me know how I can do that. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you in the next video.